So hello, welcome to the Contra Costa College Workforce Wednesday Caltrans panel discussion. I'm Mariah Bruce, Senior Workforce Manager. Thank you for joining us both in person and those who've joined us virtually. We are excited to help you learn about career options and explore how you can achieve your career goals with Caltrans. I know many of you have questions about working with Caltrans, so we'll get right into the exciting session we have planned for you today. So before we start, I'd like to ask all virtual participants to mute their audio. If you have questions, enter them into the chat along the way, and we will be able to address your questions during the question and answer portion of the session. Here's an overview of the event today. We'll start with introductions, move into our panel discussion, have closing remarks from our panelists, then open it up to the audience for a question and answer. We'll finish with a resume workshop to help you prepare for potential opportunities that will be facilitated by our amazing career services team. So we're honored today to have 4 distinguished panelists from Caltrans with us. They represent various aspects of the organization and will provide diverse insights into careers at Caltrans. I'd like to give each panelist about a minute each for introduction, and I'll go by how we have it listed. We can start with Andrea.
I'm Andrea Pugh. I work for Caltrans District 4. We call it Caltrans Bay Area, and I'm the Racial Equity Program Manager there at the district. I've been with Caltrans going into my 7th year. Prior to that, I was in corporate arenas within telecommunications and technology for about 25 years, so I made a career shift. My role encompasses all things equity as it relates to resources and serving our communities within 9 Bay Area counties. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. And next we have Claudia.
Hi, I'm Claudia Josephson. I'm an equity student assistant working for the Race and Equity Office. My manager is Andrea Pugh. We're here to let you know how Caltrans work and the opportunities for students. My role is to assist managers with any administration task or any workshops of events that we are planning. Thank you. So fast.
And Allison.
Good morning. My name is Allison Irvin. I work alongside Andrea and the 2 other panelists on here today. I work basically in our employee services office. I manage the student assistant entire program as well as the external and internal career fairs. I have a background in local government agencies, and I've been with Caltrans for approximately 2 years now in my role.
Thank you. And Peter.
Hello everyone, my name is Peter Nove. I've been with Caltrans for about 7 months now, and I'm still relatively new. I work alongside Allison in employee services as well. I'm a training coordinator, and I basically oversee and help manage District 4's, mostly District 4's, training programs, make sure everyone's in compliance with all government-related trainings and stuff like that. Thank you.
Thank you all for those introductions. We'll now move on to our panel discussion. I'll be asking the panelists a series of questions to give you a comprehensive view of working at Caltrans, and then after that, there'll be opportunities for everyone in the audience to be able to ask questions as well. So the first question, Andrea, how would you describe the culture within Caltrans and what sets it apart from other organizations?
Well, I can say Caltrans at large. Caltrans serves over about 22,000 employees, but within District 4 at large, we encompass about 5,000 of those employees. But I can just say Caltrans is a culture at large. We pride ourselves, and I speak to Caltrans Bay Area or Caltrans at large, of being a diverse organization. And what I mean by diverse, I don't just mean it by race and gender, but we talk about diverse backgrounds as regarding skill set, education, and where folks live in their communities and all of that encompasses. With that brings about different talents, different skill sets, but also different ideas and allow us to be innovative in the work and the efforts that we bring to our staff and our community.
Wonderful, thank you. So the next question is also for you. What inspired you to pursue a career in your field, and how has your journey unfolded since you first started your career?
As I said earlier during my intro, my background prior to coming to Caltrans, I was in the corporate arena and specifically AT&T for nearly 2.5 decades, so nearly 25 years, and they did some downsizing there. And I thought, what am I going to do in my next tenure of my career? I was too young to retire, and it's like, I'm not moving to Dallas, Texas, nor was I moving to Latin America. So what do I do there? And so I didn't allow myself to get stuck. So I took pause for about a year. But with that, the talents that I encompassed there throughout my tenure at AT&T and Pacific Bell, I was within the HR realm. I did project management. I worked in the call center realm. So again, I made myself marketable while I was there, but also my educational tenure. I'm an alum from Cal State East Bay. And then at that point, I got my background within my educational background within HR. So I kind of tied that all together and brought it home from here, and then looked at Caltrans. And actually, I started with Allison's in the Division of Administration. When I started Caltrans going nearly 7 years ago, I was a training officer. And I brought that from the umbrella of training and instructional design. And that came from my role at AT&T. At one point, I serviced and worked closely with AT&T University and traveled back and forth to Dallas, Texas, but also helped facilitate trainings through their leadership program, training executive leadership as well as what we call rank and file staff and frontline staff. From there, I served as a training officer at Caltrans for about a year, over a year or two, actually. Actually 3 years. Let me just keep count because you lose count so fast. For 3 years, and then the opportunity came top of 2020, 2021 for the Racial Equity Program Manager, which was first founded at Caltrans District 4. So I take pride in holding the seat that I'm in. And that came from my background in being a president of some of the ERGs in my corporate arena, which is Employee Resource Group, serving in areas of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I like to add the piece of belonging. And with that, I took my skill set and the trajectory that I had encompassed over the year and brought it into this role. And now I'm in the space of developing programs and initiatives to help better serve our district and our external communities.
That's quite a journey. Wow. Okay. So Claudia, the next question is for you. Thank you for being here representing the student interns. What is a typical day at work like for you?
Yeah, as a student assistant, my workday can shift in different directions. Usually starts by checking in with my manager and my coworkers to review any kind of agendas for any upcoming events or any upcoming workshops that we might have. We always want to make sure that we are checking our emails, replying to the different other teams that we're collaborating with. I am in charge of sometimes setting up meetings for us or for potential new partners for any other events that we're going to be holding. The events that we plan most of the time are very much related to community engagement. And something that I've learned that is very important is that at Caltrans, we always want to put people first, and we're doing this for people. So like I said, a lot of the events are related to community engagement, just like this one. At the same time, I'll be working on newsletters that we send out. For example, last month for Hispanic Heritage Month, we did a series of Did You Know, that every day during the Hispanic Heritage Month, we will send out a newsletter to all Caltrans employees, and we will highlight a pioneer figure, and we will talk a little about what they did, their background. We also do employee spotlights. And we just do certain things like that. So like I said, my day will shift depending on the agenda that is happening.
Definitely sounds like you're getting some great experience along the way. Okay. So Peter, can you please tell us about your educational career pathway? What degrees and certifications were required for you as you progressed through your career?
I graduated from UC Santa Cruz in 2018-17 with a computer science degree, and I worked at Google for about 2 years before I got laid off. And during that time, I was within human resources there as well, so not like a typical programmer or anything, which didn't, just no real certifications or anything. So along that pathway, after getting laid off, trying to find a job, and then afterwards found Caltrans and applied there. So taking my skills set from Google and just in general technology based, I was able to find a good choice here in Caltrans and hopefully go forward in my path.
Thank you. Okay. And Allison, tell us about if you had a mentor along the way that helped you get to where you are.
I did actually. When I was in my undergrad program, I didn't really see the importance of going to the Career Center, kind of getting, assistance from them and either searching for positions or either finding a mentor. During my graduate program, I realized that I guess tapping into the resources that were offered at my campus was imperative to my success following my graduation. And so I did actually involve myself in a mentorship program where I was matched with a mentor who kind of guided me along the hiring process with different locations. He was there when I was getting ready to interview at a location. He would give me pep talks. I would call him afterwards. He would assist me in kind of breaking down the interview. What could I have done better? What I excelled at. Gave me insights into networking with other people that he knew of, and also just ideas as to go to different applications like LinkedIn or Handshake and find people that worked for the agencies that I wanted to hire on with, reach out to them, have coffee talks with them, learn more about those agencies so I was better informed when I went into my interview, and also determine if I really wanted to work there or not, depending upon what they told me. So my mentor was imperative, and I do stress reaching out to career services for assistance. That's what they're there for, and they have a wealth of information that people don't usually know that they have access to.
I love that plug. Thank you. All right. Andrea, can you share any memorable experiences or challenges you faced that have shaped your career pathway with Caltrans?
Memorable experiences and challenges. I think I spoke about my challenge earlier, and I always go with a caveat of it's not always how you start, but how you finish. Because everyone's, again, bringing in the equity piece. Everything looks different. Everything's not leveled for everyone. So it's not always how you start, but how you finish. And the start may look a little bit edgy or shaky, or doesn't look how you think it's going to shape out. What is for you will not pass you. With that, I will just kind of speak about my challenge as in it helped shape my career. But also, I found myself to be resilient and pulled some character and strength that I didn't know I had at one of my most vulnerable points in life. I think when I shared earlier that I was with AT&T for nearly 25 years, I thought, okay, I got about 10 more to go, I'll be retired. And, starting off there in my very early 20s, and then to be faced with layoffs or saying, hey, you got to move out of the country or to another state. My family's here, my husband, my home and everything, so I wasn't going to just pick up and move. That wasn't something I wanted to do. So I made an executive decision for myself. And you don't always have to follow the path of an organization. You have to do what falls within your values and your ethics. And at that point, I took pause, and there was power in that. And I said, okay, here you are, you have this severance package, but you don't have a job. What are you going to do? It was my son's first year in college, and I'm just looking around, and me and my husband, we just said, well, you'll figure it out. And with that, I took power in that, and I made sound decisions to say, for me, I'm going to work through this. And that time, I took time to assess myself, figured out what I wanted to do next in my career trajectory and my pathways, and what worked best for me, not knowing what the future held, with having a secure job with benefits and all of that encompassed. And so that was a big challenge for me. How that shaped me again is I'm in the job, my dream job that I love doing. I'm serving my communities, both internal and external. I'm within the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, Belonging platform, where, I'm looking at helping individuals navigate through barriers and gaps that we can identify through the transportation system, but also when we look at the gaps and barriers that's within our own internal organization to help build a better Caltrans. So I would just say and I look at now, I'm in my dream job. You couldn't have told me that 25 years ago. So with that, that build character, resilient, but also trusting the process.
I love that. And I love that message about it's not how you start, it's where you finish. And being able to reinvent yourself. Okay. All right, so Peter, what makes Caltrans or the transportation sector in general an attractive place to work?
So for Caltrans right now, I guess a big thing probably with a lot of people right now is we're on hybrid schedule. We go in 2 days a week, 2 days in the office, 3 days remote, which is a pretty good deal for most people. I know most companies nowadays are heading to full-time office RTO, so having that nice work-life balance is definitely great. And Caltrans is still offering that choice for now, so hopefully it stays that way. Another good benefits are, they have good health, dental, vision. They include that all into their position. So like, unlike most companies, probably through like contract or something, you probably won't get as much those benefits or as good as services. The benefits here in Caltrans are pretty good, and I think they're as such like CalPERS and retirement plan. That's also another good perk as opposed to just like a typical 401k or IRA or something like that. The CalPERS program is pretty beneficial in that it will help employees after their time in service, depending on your years of service, and that's a good benefit to have and nice stability to have.
Well, thank you, Peter. All right. So Claudia, tell us a little bit about what types of internships, apprenticeships, or fellowships Caltrans offers, and how do they benefit those that participate in those opportunities?
Yeah, so Caltrans offers internships, student assistant positions just like mine, and volunteer positions as well. The reason why these positions are so beneficial for students is because we learn a lot. With a lot of hands-on learning for the job, and that student assistant position can eventually uh, transfer into a full-time position and getting all the benefits of working with the state. It is a great space to work because all of the managers and people there are willing to help you and see you growth, which I think is very important, especially for us just getting into the workforce, or anybody who's trying to get into the state. It's a very good space to learn, grow, and explore different careers opportunities too. I didn't know Caltrans had different offices like multimedia, like where you can do graphic design. They have, I believe, a law office. They have so many different offices where you can work. So definitely I will encourage you to look into the opening positions for student assistants.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize how many departments there are and what it takes to make Caltrans work outside of what they actually see on the road. So thank you for sharing that there's quite a diversity. And when it's time for Q&A, don't be shy to ask about if they have something that's on your pathway. All right. So this question is for Allison. Can you walk us through the typical application process for a position within Caltrans? What does that look like?
Absolutely. So I'll cover both the full-time positions and also student assistant positions. For full-time positions, for any state agency, you would go to the Cal Careers website. And like I said, that's all agencies within the state of California, from Caltrans to Department of Prisons to Public Health, everything. From there, we're a little bit different. We require all applicants to take what's called an exam. Now, that exam does not encompass traditional exam questions. Basically what it is, it's an opportunity for you to figure out if your background aligns with the position's actual tasks. And so let's just say hypothetically you're applying to be a environmental scientist. Basically, they're going to ask you questions of, well, how many years experience do you have conducting, environmental science tasks, things like that. Once you finish the exam, you'll get a score. If you get a passing score, then you can actually apply for the position that you were looking to apply for that the exam matches up to. After that process, usually it's either 1 or 2 actual interviews with the hiring manager. And after that, that's your hiring. We don't have very long hiring tracks, thankfully, especially with Caltrans. My interview, I only had one interview for my position. I think Peter's the same. I don't know about Andrea, but yeah.
It's usually, yeah, you're
One or
about right, it's
two.
about 1 or 2, and generally, if you have a second interview, it's just kind of a getting to know. So
Exactly.
it's not, but to your point, no, we don't have this strenuous,
Exactly.
interview process, yeah.
Exactly. And then for the student assistant positions, we have a website called calinterns.org. And there's actually a flyer on the back table that you can take with that information on it. And that is, again, student assistant positions for all state agencies, not just Caltrans. But you can go on there, you can search by geographic area, you can search by major category, and go through all of them. And basically all you do is submit your resume. There's no formal process for hiring for student assistants. Basically, if they want to interview you 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, or if they just want to have a quick phone call with you, that's all they need to do. There's no actual format they have to follow to hire student assistants. And so you just upload your resume and your transcripts. Once you give us your transcripts and your major matches the major that's required in the requisition itself, that's basically your step into the position. And so the student assistant program we look at as a stepping stone to full-time positions. And so we have a lot of student assistants that flip over to full-time once they graduate. You've already obtained the necessary kind of knowledge of the nuances of working for Caltrans, especially in the division that you work in. And so you're looked at as kind of a shining star when you apply for full-time positions.
Thank you so much. All right. For the next question, I think Peter actually touched on this one a bit earlier, so you could add to it. We can open it up if anyone feels like there was something missed that really speaks to them about what adds to their job satisfaction. But this question is, what unique perks or benefits do employees receive while working for Caltrans? I know we talked about some really good ones. And how do they contribute to your overall job satisfaction?
All right, yeah. So I guess yeah, like I said, I did go kind of over a bit of like the benefits, like dental health, vision, all that. Those are all nice perks as well as the hybrid mode for remote, being able to work remotely. That gives you the great work-life balance. I know that's a big trending thing nowadays. Is work-life balance, and that's definitely a great feature to have, to be able to work 2 days in office, 3 days remote. And besides that, I think just in general.
And don't feel pressure, Peter.
I felt like I went over most of it.
Probably the pension. That's probably going to be the biggest thing.
Yeah, the pension as well, the CalPERS, and just having, like I said, the stability after your years of service in Caltrans, and having, a set income to be able to retire at with stable income.
And I just want to add to that, and Peter, thank you for, lifting CalPERS and all the benefits, but, going even to Claudia's point, and we're just definitely speaking to, the majority of the audience of students. Take advantage of the internships, or as Allison mentioned, Cal interns or the student assistance program. You never know where it's going to take you. And, we're very intentional, and I definitely can speak for Caltrans District 4. We don't just check the box with our students. They're real life experiences. You're not going in there and saying, okay, we're just going to file some papers and here's a statement. We want you to get the real experience. And I can just speak for me and my student assistants that I've had who's went on to graduate and maybe went to fellowships or other programs. I'm still in touch with them and have very authentic relations with them. And some of them are now back at Caltrans, whether it's in a different division or what have you. They're there and they took it very seriously. And so sometimes as managers, and I can speak for myself, we push you because maybe we see a talent in you that you may not see within yourself, or a skill set that we're trying to bring out, to Allison's point, allow you to be the shining star. So I just wanted to just add that to that being a great benefit of just stretching yourself and looking into those programs, because they are available, and it opens the door for opportunity. You just never know where it'll take you.
And the internships are paid too.
Oh, yeah.
That's a big thing.
That's an important point.
And they're paid competitively, so yeah, that helps. And we do work with your school schedule. You're not allowed to work more than 20 hours a week while you're in session. And your manager will definitely work with you to manage your school schedule, make sure that you're not overexerted, and then we're not having, demands made on you that you can't perform because your school work is what comes first.
And give that grace and say, okay, all right, well, let's adjust this a bit. Or, I see that, you're commuting from this far, maybe this will be a day that you offset and stay home, or, balance the task. What you see, I've gonna tell Claudia, we spoke of this week, you may see others doing different tasks that may not have anything to do with you, because I'm looking at the load of what's happening with you. So it's always important to focus in what you're doing, because it's where I'm trying to help and shape better you, to Allison's point. So again, we're flexible in that, but also as leaders, we're paying attention to what's going to best serve the student and what their needs are.
Wonderful. All right. Okay, so now we have an opportunity to hear additional thoughts from each of the panelists. So if you could please tell us either one tip or trick that really helped you get started on the right foot, or if you initially struggled in any way, how did you turn it around? And any other final thoughts that you have that you really think is important for these students to know. So this time, I'll go from one side to the other. And we can start with Allison.
I'll kind of provide a tip for the actual application process for CalCareers. Like I referenced before, you have to take an exam before. Don't stress out about the exam. It's not an exam. What I try to tell people is when people hear exam, their eyes kind of glaze over and they mentally check out. It's not a test. It's basically just you showing us what your background is. So I wish they would change the title of that, unfortunately.
It's almost like an assessment or evaluation.
Yeah, that's probably a better way to say it.
Yeah.
It's more just tell us what you know, basically. And I'm sorry, what was the other part of the second part?
Oh, you can do a tip or trick, anything that really helped you get started on the right foot or turn things around if you had some sort of struggle initially, and then any other final thoughts that are important.
I think the really cool thing about Caltrans is that when I drive to work every day, and I know other people take mass transit, everything, I actually see what our fellow employees do. I see Caltrans workers on the road. I see, the work they've done, where environmental. I know we were over at Cal Berkeley a couple months ago, and we had our environmental division with us, and they were showing slides and pictures of a bridge. It's a 100-year-old bridge they're working on up in Napa, and they have to do environmental tests because apparently there's a salamander that lives underneath there that they have to make sure they're not going to harm. And so they were basically explaining to the students all the different processes they have to go through to just fixing a bridge. And it was really interesting because I didn't know much went into that because I'm not a scientific person. But there are so many different opportunities within Caltrans and also within other state agencies that you can take advantage of. There are state agencies that I still find out that I'm like, oh, I didn't know that existed, but different things. So definitely don't just limit yourself to Caltrans. Although we would love for you to work for us, there are so many agencies to work for the state. It's pretty amazing.
Thank you so much. Andrea?
I would just say trust yourself. Always trust yourself. Sometimes, going in even with staff or even with myself, sometimes it's, I have doubt, like, can I do this? This is a new role. This is a new opportunity. Like I mentioned, the racial equity program manager, this was a very new role, which within Caltrans District 4, Caltrans at large. Equity is always embodied in the work, but when we talk about really structuring and looking at the programs and the initiatives and the policies and practices that will align with that, it was very new. And it's like, well, who's going to come up with these programs? Who's going to come up with these initiatives? And here you are, you're in the seat. You figure that out. You do that. Yes, you do it with the leadership of your executive leaders, but they're looking to you to come up with what that should be. And so having to trust myself in the skills and the knowledge that I have. And sometimes you don't always get it right, but that doesn't mean it's wrong either. It's just a matter of going a different way to get there. And so again, I would just leave it to say, just continue to trust yourself and trust the process. And I'm not saying that just a cliche, because we often hear that, oh, just trust the process. No, truly trust yourself and trust the process. And again, I'll leave it to, it's not always how you start, but how you finish.
Love that. Claudia?
I will say my tip is listen to feedback and be willing to learn. I think that's very important, especially as a student assistant, because you are hands-on with the job, but there's a lot more that you need to grow and learn about. So definitely listen to feedback. Managers are here to help you and support you, and keep good communication with your managers. Like Allison said, especially student assistants, they are very flexible with your schedule, and they are very understanding about when you have homework or different things that might happen in your personal life. So yeah, just be willing to learn.
I love that one. Forever. Like forever, for your whole life, stick to that one. And then Peter.
So going back to the exams, just a small thing. The exams, once you take it on whatever classification it is, it unlocks the entire thing. So for example, I'm a staff service analyst, but my job title is actually training coordinator. So as a staff service analyst, you can apply to any job with that title, and it's not just limited to being only a training coordinator or something. So you can always, so make sure you, when you're applying for those jobs and looking for full-time positions, look into the position roles and the actual job titles and the actual like responsibilities, because they're different from what you think the title would be. So just be aware of that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, all of you, for those words of wisdom. And I'm sure some questions have arisen along the way for you as an audience. So now we definitely have time set aside for the panelists to be able to answer questions from you. So definitely raise your hand. And I believe, is it Catherine or Darling? Who carry the mic around? So Catherine will have the mic around. So anyone in the room that has a question, raise your hand, wait for the mic. So that the people on Zoom can hear the question too. And then Christine is going to ask any questions that you pose in chat. So for sure, enter any questions you have if you're attending online into the chat, and we'll make sure to ask the question of the panelists for you. So just raise your hand if you have any questions.
Hello, panel. Good afternoon, everybody here. My name is Punsok. I am a mother of 2 kids, and I have a little career gap. Was taking care of my family, and I'm trying to come back to workforce. That's why I joined Contra Costa to take some courses to strengthen my resume and skills. And I have gone onto your website, Cal Careers, and I have applied for several positions. I took some tests as well. I see active statuses but never get a response, and I was just gonna ask to see if there's any way I can get some response, like as a,
It's
to
awful.
help.
I've been there. I think
sure.
we've all been there, unfortunately. I know. I wish they would update their statuses more. There's always an individual listed in the job description towards the very bottom that you can reach out to. And so there's a phone number and an email. Usually if it's a 916 area code, especially with Caltrans, that's going to be in Sacramento, but there's always a local contact. And usually it's a 510 area code. So I would definitely reach out to them, and you can ask any questions. Hey, is the position, are you done hiring? What's going on? You can always ask them. Always, always. And I had a 7-year gap because I have 2 kids myself. So don't think that's going to stop you, because it didn't stop me. So yeah.
Were there any questions from online?
Well, I have a follow-up. In terms of for those students or potential employees that have a gap of employment, do you recommend a specific format for the resume, whether a chronological versus a functional resume? Because that's a plug-in, that's our next part of the workshop.
Actually, well, on Cal Careers, you build your own resume, and so you can upload a resume. I don't really think it matters, but you build your own resume in there. And I would obviously say be honest, don't fluff it. Because at least when I've tried that in the past, I always get found out. So yeah, but just be honest. People are aware that life happens. People have children. People get laid off. That is unfortunately a way of life now. And hiring managers are fully aware of that. That's not looked negatively upon, so.
And to add to that, as you mentioned, as far as the resume at large, resumes are optional. One of the thing about when you go into the process, when you're filling out that information is, and I would just say this, and I went through this as an exercise with some of our employees. Fill out your application completely. If there's a statement of qualification and SOQ, if it says 12 font, 1 page, pay attention to detail, because I've seen those things also. You may be fully qualified and it just goes out the window because the hiring manager is looking at, I mean, you can have the perfect resume. Your application could be filled out to the T, but if you're not following directions into those details, again, making sure you're paying attention to the details. So if it says, we have an SOQ here, I've seen it to where, just being a hiring manager myself, oh, please see resume attached. That's not what they've asked you. There may be a specific question on that statement of qualification that says, tell me ABC, or tell me a little bit more about this, see resume attached. They want to maybe access that's your opportunity to showcase maybe your writing skills, to Allison's point, tell your story, whatever that is encompassed in the question, or if it's simple, if you can follow directions. I know one of the things that I add the SOQ to ensure folks are able to follow directions and pay attention to details, especially with the work that I do. Paying attention to detail is key. So if I say 12 font and there's 11 font, or if I say write in calligraphy and you've put it in Roman times, that's just simple. You're not paying attention. So again, it's just those small things. But to your point with the resume, being honest, to Allison's point, I would just add that and just really share your true story, but then also paying attention to the detail and fill out the application completely.
And read the job posting. It will tell you what they want. If you follow that, basically what Andrea said, you're good to go. And the statement of qualifications, it could range. Most jobs have them. It's going to be 1 to 3 questions, and it's like, tell us about a time where you had a disagreement with a coworker and how you managed it. It's going to be kind of life type situations. Just read the prompt and follow the prompt.
So hopefully that kind of helps a little bit. We're trying to give as much as we can. And Allison, you said something that was key. Read the job application, read the description of the role. I had interviews over the past several weeks, and it was for a race and equity position for engagement. And they got to the interview. They passed everything and they got to the interview. You got to the table, so now let's hear about you. And one of the questions was, what's your definition of equity? And so someone says to me, well, which equity would you be speaking about? Are you speaking about the equity for money in your home? Or are you speaking about equity, race and equity? But going to Allison's point, you're here at the table at the interview, so we're thinking, well, what equity are we speaking about? You applied for a race and equity position, so clearly we're not talking about finances. So thinking about what it is you're reading and what you're entailing when you see the job application and when you see the description of the job. So just making sure that you read is very key. We've seen some of everything.
I can imagine.
Applying for jobs is a full-time job.
It is.
Unfortunately.
It's a lot of work. Okay, well, if there aren't any questions at the moment, I have one. So I know earlier we were talking about how some people have a certain idea about what the work is that it takes in order to run Caltrans, and they think it's what they see when they're driving to work or going to school, and they see people working on the roads. Can you tell me some positions that you think people would be surprised are part of what it takes for Caltrans to be able to operate?
No, so many.
I know.
Feel free to do a list if there's not one.
External affairs. I work within the division of external affairs. You all have an external affairs division. Well, what does that embody? Well, that's our audiovisual team, our graphics designers. Oh, Caltrans have graphic designers? Oh, you all use computer? Oh, you have artists there? Well, yes, our logos, our flyers, when you see things that are showcased via our graphics or our announcement that goes out, that comes from our audiovisual teams. We have public information officers. So those folks, when you see some folks reporting on the news, this, whether it's speaking about our roads or events, because some people are into communications or public speaking, we have PIO officers. I'm within the equity program. We have our customer service team. Someone has to answer the phones to make sure that we're servicing our customers. So there's different divisions. I think you mentioned earlier, Claudia, our legal division. So we have our legal department. Allison is in the Department of Administration. Administration is the backbone. That all encompasses HR, employee services, our, what is it, facilities, the building facilities?
Yeah, we have a fleet manager. We have somebody that manages all of our Caltrans cars that we get to drive to come to places like this. But then we have heavy equipment operators who basically run the backhoes and all the huge trucks that you see out, you know, dealing with road construction and everything. We have a design division that's not audiographic or visual design. We actually people design our bridges. I've spoken to the person that actually designed the Bay Bridge. He retired recently. Wow. So, yeah.
The navigating the drones. They're
Yeah,
like, oh, you all use
exactly.
drones. Well, we have to see, we have our right-of-way team. We have our planning department, whether that be with transportation planning or urban planning or our project delivery team. I mean, we have a variety of divisions that how Caltrans run, it is just not, I mean, in order for our roads to maintain and to be safe, that's our top priority, but there's a lot that goes along with that.
Water quality. I didn't know we had a water quality team. Yeah. We have environmental, we have civil engineers, we have environmental engineers. I didn't know there was an environmental engineer position. We have our environmental scientists. We have gamut positions.
Yeah, civil office of civil rights.
Yep.
Our training department. Well, we have to make sure we have our mandated trainings in place. You know, our Office of Civil Rights, our Equal Opportunity Program. You know, so there are. I mean, we can't even know. I don't even know all of them. we're just. I mean, the list goes on and on. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I know we had some people who just joined in. There, we have it. This a time period that if you have any questions for any of the representatives from Caltrans, you're able to ask questions. So you would just, if you're in the room, raise your hand, and we would bring you the mic so you could ask the question. And if you are on Zoom, you would just post it in the chat and we would ask the question. So any other questions? Oh, she's coming.
Okay, I was trying to see where are all your locations of Caltrans?
So we manage the 9 Bay Area counties. Our main office is located in Oakland, but we do have sub-offices throughout the counties, basically. So we have shops in San Leandro. We have shops basically everywhere, I think. We also have kind of, what would you call the ones that you can work out of, if you live like in San Francisco, I know.
Like those little hubs. Or
Yeah, we have like office hubs, like I think there's one in San Francisco. People that live a little bit further away from the district office.
Yeah,
So-
it's Benicia, Concord, Walnut Creek. As Allison mentioned, San Leandro. Our main base office is downtown Oakland, but we have them definitely throughout. So yeah, that's with Caltrans District 4.
Yeah.
We can speak to them, and our main headquarters is in Sacramento.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Okay. So if there's no other questions, we're going to conclude the panel portion. I do want to take the time to thank all of our panelists for being here and for sharing their expertise. They may hang out if they want to. But we're going to transition now to our amazing Catherine Fonseca, who's our program coordinator from Career Services, and she's going to go through a resume workshop with you to kind of help you with the next steps of getting prepared. to be ready for internship and apprenticeship and job opportunities, in addition to paying attention to detail. And I have these certificates I'm going to give you as well. So we'll transition. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Oh, it's in here. Okay.
And then there's the slides if you want to look at them.
Okay. Thank you. We'll get started in a minute or so. Thank you so much to the panel. That was great information. All right. My name is Catherine Fonseca. I work here in the Career Center. How many of you have a resume already? Okay. So for those of you that have a resume, how many of you have a competitive resume? An updated resume? Couple, okay, great. That's part of the doing the job, right? Making sure that it is up to date. So today we're going to talk a little bit about, give you some pointers on how to develop a competitive resume. Now, keep in mind that a lot of times it has to be tailored to your specific skill set and also to the job that you're applying to. One of the things that we heard from the panel earlier was that it is important to read the job description. They're telling you what they're looking for in that job description. So the ideal resume is that it's tailored specifically to that job. Okay, so we're going to go over some general information that a resume should contain, right? If you have any questions along the way, please raise your hand and we'll address your question, all right? So for the purpose of today, this is what we're going to cover. We'll briefly cover letters. We'll talk mainly about resume writing. We'll talk about the different techniques, the parts, the purpose of a resume, and then I believe you all should have a packet in your folder that is contains some sample resumes and a cover letter as well, right? Okay, so the purpose of a resume is pretty much just a marketing tool. It's not to get you the job, but it's to get you an interview. That is the purpose of a resume, okay? It's an organized chart that you tell the employer the skill set that you bring and the value of your work history that aligns with the work and what the skills that they're looking for. Now, this is one of the things that we talked about that was brought up. If you say that you pay attention to detail in your resume, make sure that there's no spelling errors, right? Because that's part of paying attention to details, making it sure it's clean. Pop quiz. What's the average amount of time that an employer looks at your resume? Raise your hand. What do you think? Yes, sir. How long does an employer take? Less than a minute. How much? How much? 5 minutes. Anybody else? 5 seconds. 6 to 7 seconds. So there is a reason why you should make sure that you tailor it and that you're strategic on how you lay it out. The verbiage that you use, okay? So just keep that in mind. If you are writing anything more than 2 pages, sometimes ideally 1 page, it's too long, okay? Especially when there's those competitive jobs that you have five jobs, one job, and there's 200 applicants. So you want to be strategic on what you use, what you write in that resume, and how you showcase it. Okay. Does that surprise you? Is it surprising? Yeah? Why? You thought they were spending more time? Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. All right, there's a couple different types of resume. The way you format your resume is ultimately your decision. This is the way you want to present to an employer. But there's typically two types of resume. For today's purpose, we're going to focus mostly on the chronological resume, okay? But there's also something that we talk about that I mentioned earlier, a functional resume. And the functional resume format is ideal for those who have gaps of employment, are changing industries. So maybe you're going from education into the private sector, okay? Or you want to highlight specific skill set, right? But like I mentioned earlier, we want to focus specifically on the chronological resume for today's purpose. Now, components and parts that should be included in the resume. Your name, contact information, an objective or a professional summary if you have a lot of work history, okay? Education, qualifications, your experience, and perhaps depending on what the job is and whether you're entering brand new to that industry, or it's required for the job, maybe you want to highlight membership awards, professional development that you have completed. Okay. So typically you'll see the resume is when you're entering your contact information, it could be centered on the top of the page of the resume with your name, your email, and your contact number. Okay. Is there anything that surprises you that is not included in there? What? Yes? Yes. What is it? LinkedIn? Yes, you can definitely, if you have it active, make sure it's up to date. Okay? If you have a LinkedIn account, yes. Anything else that surprises you that is not included in here? Address? Do you all include an address? Give me something, yes, no? Some of you may include an address. Best practice, we recommend that if you are going to include an address, don't put your complete address for safety purposes, okay? You don't know where you're uploading your resume into. You don't know if these are legitimate employers. So for safety purposes, that's one thing to consider. Also, it is discussed out there that depending where you're applying for a job, sometimes it's questionable whether or not you want to include the city where you live. Because employers, once again, social justice, coming from a social justice perspective, sometimes employers will make an assumption about you based on the city where you live. Okay, I have heard employers that say, oh, I have a job out there in Pittsburgh, Oakley, Brentwood, and I see an address for Richmond. I do question about the commitment of the travel that this student or potential employee will, make the commitment to stick with this job. So those are things that you need to consider, okay, when you're applying, things that you need to really think about. Right? But definitely for safety purposes, don't include your exact address. Okay? And the way that you're going to include it, like I said, an example on the right-hand side, you can put a center or left justify, right justify. It's your preference. And then you'll include either be an objective or a professional highlight. Okay, this is where you're going to talk about what you've done professionally, what you're trying to do by applying to this job. And you can start as simple as to obtain a position, as something, to seek a position, in a specific department seeking the student assistant position or whatever position you're seeking for and applying for. Now, if you do have a lot of work history, then change it to something that's called professional highlights. Okay. The next section on here should be education. I know some people put it on the bottom of their resume. Once again, it's your personal preference. My recommendation would be, because remember, 6 seconds. You don't want to have the employer look and research on your page. Where's your education? Where's your training that is required for this job? So my recommendation is to put it on the top of the page. Make it easy for them to see it. Okay. And the way you present it is you put the name of the institution where you earn your degree or your certifications, the city and the state. You name the certificate or degree that you have earned. Don't just write AS degree or BS degree. Spell it out. Right? Now, for some of you that might have extensive work experience or that you graduated, I'm sorry, let me backtrack. If you graduated a long time ago, one of the things that you want to be careful with is that you also don't age yourself, right? So don't necessarily put the graduation date when you earned this degree. If you earned this degree 20 years ago, 10 years ago, you don't necessarily have to put it on here because you're aging yourself. Okay, that's something to also consider, all right? If you're expected to earn this degree in the near future, yes, put it on here. If you earned this degree 5 years ago, yes, put it on here, all right? Questions about that? All right, I'm gonna move forward. Work experience. Now, work experience is another one that you also want to be very strategic on how you lay it out. The job description for the job that you're applying for will tell you what they're looking for. If you have performed those skills, if you have that skill set, if you have that experience, you definitely want to highlight it on the bullet points and when you write your resume. Your resume should not be written in a paragraph format. It should be bulleted. Once again, it's 6 seconds, 6-7 seconds. So you want to make it very easy for the reader to capture your skill set. Okay. You want to do it in reverse chronological order, the most recent job on top and work your way back. Anything more than 7-10 years ago, you may not want to put it on there. However, if there is a gap of employment, if you do have a lot of work history, once again, if you're concerned about, I don't want to age myself, then don't necessarily put the years from, 10 years ago or 15 years ago. So there may be a different format in which you want to present it in so that you can still highlight your work experience, but not necessarily age yourself, right? And like I mentioned, you want to do bullet points. Those bullet points should start with an action verb. The packet that we provided has 2 pages of action verbs that will help you articulate if you were doing some sort of helping, assisting, so that you don't keep saying help, help, help in each bullet point. If you had leadership skills, we'll give you a list of words that you can utilize to articulate and show that it was a leadership role. Okay, so we have done some of the work for you. You just have to look at that packet and take the time to kind of assess what is the best word to help you describe that skill. If you have campus involvement, if you don't have a lot of work history, yes, you definitely want to highlight your campus involvement. Or if you're changing industries, or if you're brand new to an industry. If we had some students in engineering, I think last year, who worked in a NASA project. That was a campus activity. That's something that they do want to highlight. NASA is a huge organization, very well recognized, has great reputation, right, for doing a lot of work. So that's definitely something that the student wants to highlight on their resume. If you don't have campus involvement, you just have work history, that's perfectly okay as well, right? And kind of this is the way it should be looking at this point, okay? Usually we recommend that you have 4 to 5 bullet points under each work history or employment history or campus involvement to kind of capture what you were doing in that role. Any questions so far? One of the things that I did not mention earlier that I do see here, the GPA. If I have a 2.0 GPA or anything below a 3.0 GPA, should I be putting it on there? I wouldn't recommend it, okay? I wouldn't recommend it. And it doesn't mean that you're a bad student, you know, but I wouldn't recommend it because they might be judging based on your resume, all right? Now, once again, if you don't have a lot of work history, you definitely want to highlight any community involvement as well. If you're brand new to that field, you want to highlight community involvement that might relate to that job. Okay? Like an internship, right? It's not a job per se, but it does give you the skill set, entry-level skill set perhaps to go into a brand new field. So think about that. Now, like I said, you may not be including all of these parts on your resume because you don't want to write a book. Anything more than a page, we really need to assess on whether or not that's relevant information that should go on a resume. If you have extensive work experience that goes over a page, then at that point, then we might look at our CV rather than a resume. Okay. Which we're not going to cover CVs today, but come and talk to us and schedule an appointment if you have questions about that. Skill sets, okay? If they're asking you to be bilingual, they're asking you to be CPR certified or have some sort of specific computer certification, then you definitely want to put it on here. And my recommendation would be to put it under the education, between education and work experience or work history. And you can do a subtitle that says relevant training or relevant certifications or something along those lines. If you know you're going to be working with a specific community that speaks a different language, you want to highlight that skill set. If you're fluent, if you're, you speak that language. Okay. And then like I mentioned earlier, and like the panel mentioned earlier, you want to do some research on what are the skills that they're looking for. A lot of times they're giving you the key words. So it's just about you taking on that time to really look and assess. Are they looking for analytical skills? Are they looking for people skills, organizational skills? What are they looking for? Have I utilized that skill set in previous jobs? Let me highlight that in my current resume. Because a lot of times when you are applying for these jobs, there's that artificial intelligence that scans through your resume, and they kind of look to see if you have the keywords to match what they're looking for, and that's how they start. So just it's a science. It is a job within the job search process. Okay. So, any questions so far? So at the end, your resume could look something like this, or it might look slightly different. But as you can see, it's very clean. You want to pay attention to alignment on the page. If you say that you pay attention to detail, you want to make sure that there's no spelling errors on there and the alignment between the different margins. Here, and the other one doesn't start here or here. And the alignment here with the line. Okay, so you want to pay attention to those minor. Yes. I would say come and talk to us. Meet with us one-on-one so we can look at that. Because a lot of times I think we are story by culture. So we go, we might be able to condense, condense the experience. Yeah, you're right. A lot of times that happens. And a lot of times it has to do with the formatting of the page as well. I do see that a lot, that it has to do with the formatting. You can play with your margins, you can play with your font size, your alignment. So a lot of times that takes a lot more time than actually drafting the email, the resume. Yeah, but I would recommend come and talk to us so that we can, oh, thank you so much. So that, yeah, thank you, because I do like to walk around. Yeah, so I would definitely recommend that come and talk to us, because a lot of times also, like, when you spend hours and hours on a resume, you're like, oh my God, I'm so frustrated at this point. And then you just need someone to help you out. Yeah, if you already have a template for a specific job and you just need help with the formatting, yeah, either way, we can help you and we can look at, okay, let's play with this, let's play with that, let's play with the header, let's play with the footer, let's play with the margins, the font size a little bit, and let's look at the content, because that's the other piece, right? When we go into storytelling. Yeah. And you bring up a great point, which I haven't talked about. One of the things that we talk about in the packet is that if to bring your resume to a different level, you want to, if you can, and when it's appropriate, you want to add quantifiable goals. So if you have experience working in a high-paced office, you can say experience working in a high-paced office. Great. But if you can add a number, working in an office that serves over 100 clients per day, you see how that may take it to a different level? Because what high pace for you may be 50 people, maybe 25 people. But when you put a number, you quantify it, it takes it to a different level. The same thing working with money, doing reports. How often do you run reports? How many reports? Is it quarterly? Is it yearly? So those are things that will help your resume go to a different level. But yes, my recommendation would be make an appointment with us. We'll look at your resume, tailor it, and try to figure out how to condense it. And yes, sometimes it's not, one page is not ideal. Sometimes we do go over it. But we want to make sure that no more than 2 pages. Yeah. Yeah. And that, in those cases only happen when you do have extensive work experience. Yeah. Great question, by the way. So let me show you how do you make an appointment with us. So we kind of talked about these things. So in career services, we do offer multiple services. Okay, and we're actually right above the culinary program, SAB 227. right across the way. And our office is open Monday through Friday for Monday to Thursday for in-person and Fridays virtual appointments only. But we are open 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Okay? And then Fridays 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And you can make an appointment by going to Handshake. How many of you have a Handshake account? An active Handshake account? This one, yeah. If you don't have an active Handshake account, you can actually activate your Handshake account because we do have the flyers in your packet. So here, this QR code right here, just scan it and then you can schedule appointments with us, with myself and with Megan, who is also our other coordinator for career services and internship. For those online as well, you can, for those online, I had to think about it, sorry about that. Go to our career services webpage, and you can also go and there's a button on our brand new website where it says schedule an appointment. So just click on there and then follow the steps on there to activate your Handshake account as well. Okay, and then you select the mode. Do you want to do it in person or a remote, as a Zoom appointment? Okay, perfect. Yes, thank you. All right. Any other questions? So really quick plug-in, we do have a very good team of student ambassadors that go on Handshake and look for active and hot jobs in the community. And we post these actually on our social media account. So if you are not following us, do follow us because we do post activities on there, internship opportunities, job opportunities that may be relevant to you. So we do a lot of the work already. It's just a matter of you following us because I know that you're following on social media. You already have accounts anyways. So might as well just add us to your network, okay? And I do want to do a quick plug-in as well for one more, I believe we have one more event that's happening. If it's not happening, you can also schedule an appointment for our Comet Career Closet. Our next one is happening November 7th here in the Quad. If you need interview clothing, because we do know that that's very expensive, we do have a career closet that is available free of cost to you. The clothes is either gently used or brand new clothing that can help you and, you know, get you prepared for that interview when you're ready to go to that interview. Okay, so you can either attend our little pop-up here in the Quad November 7th or schedule an appointment using Handshake as well. Okay, any questions? No? All right, well, thank you so much. You've been great. Oh, do you have a question? I believe it's from like 10:30 to about 12:30, I believe. So there is a couple hour time frame, as long as supplies last, because I know that at this point we're running low. Yeah, but schedule an appointment. Yeah, for tomorrow. You can schedule an appointment for tomorrow if you want. We do. We just ask that it is clean and it's, you know, no holes, no stains. And it's like something that people can use for interview. If it's just regular clothing, we may have other referrals that you know, you can take your donation to. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much. Hopefully you'll come and schedule an appointment with us if you have any questions, all right? Thank you.